Hey y'all. So forgive me because I'm a little under the weather, but I gotta put this out. Um I was sitting in my car talking to the Lord, some personal things that I was dealing with God about. And um I heard him say to me, they that worship me must worship me in spirit and in truth. And I'm like, okay, I've heard that. I know that, right? I know that they that worship you must worship you in spirit and in truth. I know that. And he said, actually, a lot of people have a zeal for me, right? They desire to worship me. They desire to please me. They desire to do a lot of these things. And, but they don't really know what's pleasing to me. And that kind of took me back. I'm like, God, like, what do you mean? What do you mean they don't know what's pleasing to you? And what comes to mind, right, as I'm even talking about this was Cain and Abel, right? We hear the story of Cain and Abel, and Abel produced something for God, and Cain produced something for God. Yet Abel's sacrifice was accepted and Cain's was rejected. And when you read it, you realize that Abel offered the firstling of his flock, right? And I'm like, this sounds familiar, like when you read it. Because in the law, when you're bringing an offering of the flock or the herd, it's always the firstling of the flock. So I'm like, Abel had to be in relationship with God to know what pleased him, right? He had a zeal for God, but his zeal for God was according to knowledge, because he knew that the firstling of the flock pleased God. And we see that later on down the line in the law, that's what's required. But Abel didn't have the law, right? What did he have? What did he have? He had a spirit, okay? He had a spirit that led him and guided him into all truth. And he knew truth by that spirit. Cain, on the other hand, didn't have that spirit, because Cain produced the fruit of the ground. And we always say, oh, the ground was cursed and you can't produce something cursed God. No, that's not the case, because that same ground is still cursed when the law comes about. The problem is Cain didn't know that if he was going to make that kind of an offering, there was a specific way it needed to be made. He didn't have the knowledge. So he had a zeal for God, but it was not according to knowledge. It was according to what he deemed acceptable, or what he felt God would accept, or what he felt was good enough for God. And God had to tell him, like, no, if you do that which is right, would you not be accepted? Meaning there's a right way to please God. That you can't just offer anything to God and think he's going to be okay with it because you're doing it to please him. That's fine and well, you're doing it to please him, but it don't mean that it's accepted. We just think because we're doing it to please God that it's accepted. And the Bible specifically tells us that that's not the case, right? Abel offered a gift that was acceptable to God. Cain offered a gift that was not acceptable. Both of these gifts were offered to God. It's just one was accepted and one was not. And that's where the Lord said, they that worship me must do so in spirit and truth. You want to worship the Lord, you have to do it according to knowledge. You have to do it by the spirit of truth, because that spirit is the spirit that will lead you and guide you into all truth. He always pleases God. He always do what is acceptable to God. And if you are following him, if you are obeying him, you too will always do what is pleasing and acceptable to God, because your obedience to the spirit, that is what pleases and acceptable to God. So I just wanted to put that out there for somebody, like, get to know the spirit of God. Get in your word. Allow these things to teach you. Allow the Spirit of God to teach you. He will transform the way that you think, because you can be thinking it's a certain way and he will show you something totally different. And that's the renewing of the mind. The renewing of the mind is turning away from what you think it is to turn into what the Lord say it is. Be blessed, y'all. I wanted to put that out there because it was on my spirit to do so. Have a good day.